masala or chola masala, there is a difference between chana and chola. The majority of chickpeas that you find in the West are actually chola. Chana are a smaller and more tasty. The flavour is a lot more pronounced on chana than it is on chola. And there's also the black chana, which are again are rather small and with a more pronounced flavour. The majority of chickpeas you'll find in the Western world are chola, and that's what I'll be cooking with today. This is an absolutely delicious dish, and I think it originates in northern India. It's not a loose curry sauce. It's generally very spicy and slightly sour in flavour, and rather dry, rather than being in a loose sauce. So let's run through the ingredients. First of all, you'll need some chickpeas. Of course, soaked and boiled chickpeas are probably going to be better. And if you can get proper chana, the smaller chickpeas, you'll probably find that the flavour is a little more pronounced, even more delicious than the ordinary chana, chola rather. You'll also need, the souring agent I'm using is amchur, which is like a powdered dried mango, which is still rather unripe and sour at the time it is processed, and it gives a lovely depth of flavour that you just can't get from other souring agents. So if you can get amchur, and you can buy it from Indian stores, from most Asian grocers will sell it, and it's powdered mango, amchur, AMCHOOR. The main flavourings in this come from onion and also from coriander, but onions, garlic and ginger, the Indian trinity. Alright, in addition to that, I've got a piece of cassia bark, which gives a lovely cinnamony flavour, and it does that, unlike cinnamon, without breaking apart in the sauce. So you can actually cook that whole and then fish it out of the sauce, or just leave it to the side of your plate. And I've got a single dried cayenne pepper, which gives great health benefits. It's particularly good for your heart. It's a really flavoursome, quite hot chili pepper, but it's exceptionally good for you. So I tend to include it in dishes like this. You'll need some ginger, and what I've done is I've grated up some ginger, frozen it, and now it's defrosted. So there's a good tablespoon of ginger there. That's fresh ginger. I've got 6 cloves of garlic. I'm going to add, you'll probably see me pull these out rather often these days, because I'm a bit of a pepper mouth, and I just love these Trini peppers. They're superb. And of which they are very strong. They're very hot peppers, but of which Moruga is the milder, slightly milder, but it's extremely flavoursome. Wonderful, fruity, flavoured hot pepper. And for pure Trini fire, for pure heat, there's some scorpion peppers right there. Both of these are dried, and I'm going to add those in very small amounts, but I'm getting accustomed to the taste, and I really do love them. You'll need some oil, and to sweeten the oil to start off, you'll need some panch phoron. You'll need a little bit of that, about half a teaspoon. You're going to need some curry powder. This is my homemade curry powder, but just choose one that you like with vegetable curries. There's also my new best mate. He actually has been my new best mate for about 2 years now, but the ajwan seeds, which I really, really love. They give a nice intense carroty kind of flavour to the dish, and now that I've started using them, I'm kind of addicted to them. I really do love that flavour. It's a fabulous flavour, somewhere between say a strong carroty parsnip type flavour, very, very strong indeed, because it is in fact the seed of a rather primitive carrot. I've also got some cumin seeds. These are toasted cumin seeds, and I like to put those into this dish whole because of the flavour they give. There is cumin in the curry powder, but I also like the way that the whole cumin pimps up the flavour of your food really nice. I've also got some regular chili flakes, which are I would say medium in heat. I'm going to use some vegetable bouillon powder for this. This is a popular one in Britain that's rather good. It's a little salty, so be careful how much salt you use when you use this particular brand. Alright, I think that's just about got through it all. So I'm just going to prep up. I'm going to prep up the onion and get the ginger and the garlic into my food processor and give them a whiz. Because the first thing we're going to do, like in a lot of Indian foods, is we're going to fry down the Indian trinity of onions, garlic and ginger in fat that is sweetened by the panch phoron. Okay, let's get started. Alright, that's got my onions, garlic and ginger into the food processor. I'm going to give that a squirt of oil at this point, just to lubricate everything up. And one ingredient I left out, I forgot to tell you about, was tomato puree. You're going to need a couple of tablespoons of tomato puree, or you can use 500 mils of tomato passata. This is a very concentrated flavour, and because I'm going to concentrate the flavour right down anyway to make this a thick, rather thick clinging sauce to the chickpeas, tomato puree works rather well, and it is a little bit cheaper to use, of course, than tomato passata. Alright, while my pot is coming up to heat, I'm going to do a quick shout out, and that shout out is long overdue, and it's to my friend Tilly Eats, and you'll see a link to her channel up here, look, right there. And so she's from Australia, Melbourne, and she does some great vlogs, interesting tours of the eateries of Melbourne and other places. And the girl's got some real talent when it comes to cooking, so check out her channel, give her some love, give her a few of these, give her some likes, and don't forget to subscribe and click the bell to make sure that you get updates on her channel. So that's Tilly Eats. Alright, onwards and upwards. Right, we get this up to heat, and then we want to get some oil into the pan. You want to get plenty of oil in. If you need to drain off the oil after it's cooked, then that's all well and good, but you will need this amount of oil at least to cook in. So you need, say what, about 4 tablespoons of oil. I want to get in there about a teaspoon of toasted cumin seeds, and I want to get in about half a teaspoon of ajwan seeds. Love ajwan. And a little bit in my panch phoron, and say half a teaspoon of panch phoron. That's rather good. Okay, where are we? Bring it up to heat till it starts sizzling and begins to pop, and then we bring out that's a rather nice food processor I've got, in that it's got that sort of this lid cap, which helps everything to grind up really nicely without splattering everywhere. I rather like this one. It's a Kenwood one, this one. Alright, that's sizzling, that's coming up to pop. And I want to get the onions, garlic and ginger, which has been ground up fine. And this isn't Spoonzilla today, this is Spoonzilla's little sister, and I think, you know, she deserves a showing. I don't think Spoonzilla's particularly happy, but Spoonzilla's in the dishwasher, so I'm afraid he's just going to have to sit this one out. Alright, let's get that frying. I'm doing this left-handed. Two of my favourite YouTubers are left-handed. That's my friend Tilly, who I've already mentioned, and of course Taste of Trini. There must be something about that, about being left-handed and being a good cook. They say that left-handed people are rather talented, don't they? So here's one for all you southpaws. Actually, I should do it with that finger, shouldn't I? There you go. There. Right, I'm going to get in the dried, the cassia bark cinnamon and my whole pepper, and you need to stir and fry this now for a few minutes. And what we're trying to achieve here, well, it'll go darker in colour. What happens is the sugars start to come out of the onion and out of the garlic and out of the ginger, and they begin to caramelise. And that's why it's rather important. We do this on high heat, but we keep it moving. We stir and fry, stir and fry. And there's a really good reason for this, is that it really develops a nice deep umami flavour, and that's very important. It's important to all curries, but it's particularly important to these Boona style dishes in which you fry it down to a really nice thick brown sauce, and it gives just such fantastic flavour. Love it. Once you've made this dish, by the way, and if you've never had this chole masala or chana masala like this, in this style, in this North Indian style, you really have been missing out, because once you've had it, I promise you, there's no turning back. You'll want to eat this a lot, and it's a particularly good dish for when you're fasting and for vegetarians and vegans. So it's a really, really delicious, versatile dish. Because you can add it as a pie filling, you can do so many things with this. I like to let this cool off a little bit and eat it with my fingers, because there's so many things that are seem to taste more delicious when you eat with the fingers. And as they say in Germany, besser mit der Finger essen. So let's do that. There you go. And we keep that moving. Once it gets to the desired consistency, and once it's cooked down to the correct amount, you get this wonderful characteristic sweet smell, and that's for good reason. That's because the sugars are now finding solution with the oil and starting to darken and brown and caramelise, and it's in that moment where you get that wonderful umami flavour. I might be going on about this, but I am so enamoured by this dish, and I have been for over 30 years. And big respect to the great Madhur Jaffrey, awesome Madhur Jaffrey, from whose books I learned to do this wonderful dish. I've probably changed my version of it over the years, but the fundamentals of all my Indian cookery, I have to give credit to Madhur Jaffrey for that, and her wonderful books. She was a contemporary of another one of my heroes, and that's Keith Floyd, and of course he was the governor as far as I'm concerned. Right, that's cooking down really nice now. Now it's time to introduce our good friend, the curry powder. I'm starting to get the first waft of that lovely sweet smell, so it's time. I'm going to add 1, 2, 3 heaped teaspoons of that. So that's like a large heaped tablespoon at least, or 3 heaped teaspoons. Stir it in. It's at this point we want this to start to cook. Down the curry powder, because in curry powder there can be, there are some initially harsh flavours that we need to temper down a little bit and make sure it's cooked, because I don't like the taste of very raw harsh spices in my food, and I like to cook that down, as you see here. This isn't a particularly good lazy cook dish because there's quite a lot of work involved in it, as you can see, but I love this so much that it's worth every effort. So I'm going to add about half a cup of water just initially. And I've got a technique about this, and you'll watch it before your very eyes right now. Sorry about the steam, but that's generally what happens when you put water to a hot pan. Now you'll notice what's happened. See how quickly the water's evaporated and it's started returning back to the frying again. This is important. This is very important when you're making a boona, which is what this style of dish is. You've got to get that down again. Let that start frying. Yeah. And people always say something tastes better the second day. Well, this is how you get a little bit of that second day flavour on day 1. Right. I've added a bit more water, and there's a lot of North Indian dishes that would include cream or yoghurt, and it's normally at this stage that you would stir it in a spoonful at a time. I'm just adding in my tomato paste right now because this dish doesn't have yoghurt, because the souring agent in this one, as we've already discussed, is the anchor, the powdered mango. So I'm going to get this in, mix in the tomato paste, right, and then I'm going to add the rest of my water and perhaps a bit more. Okay, add in that. So I'm bringing that up to I'm not being shy with it, you see. Look, I'm adding quite a lot of water. And that really is to give the spices time to cook by the time the water mostly evaporates. Alright, so at this stage I'm going to add a little bit of vegetable bouillon. I'm just going to sprinkle the powder straight on because I'm rather lazy. You can actually make it up as a stock if you like, but I think for a dish of this size I'm just going to put a couple of vegetable bouillon. If you make your own vegetable stock, just be aware of how much salt is going into it, because we need to adjust this at the end anyway with salt. And it's at this point where I begin to introduce the chilies. And spicy chickpeas need spice. So to that end, I'm going to add a teaspoon of ordinary chili flakes. I'm going to add about half a teaspoon of Maruga Red. If I can get the damn thing open. Right, half a teaspoon of Maruga Red. I won't be adding chipotle to this dish because I don't think the smoke flavour works quite as well with this dish, and it wouldn't really be very authentic. The Maruga Red and the scorpion peppers are Trinidad peppers, and I'm going to use about, let's say, about a third of a teaspoon of Trinidad scorpions. Those are very, very powerful, hot chili, dried chili flakes. So it's the scorpion peppers for the heat and the Maruga for the flavour. Alright, now the souring agent in this, the amchur, that can go in now, and I'm going to put 2 in, and then I'm going to taste it. So 2 teaspoons of amchur. Let's show you what that looks like. Amchur powder. It looks a lot like that. There you go. It's a bit like a sort of a light cinnamon. Amchur mango powder. I like this brand as well, very good. You can get that from my local Indian stores. Oh, immediately I can smell that characteristic mango flavour coming up. That mango smell. Let's I'm going to have to get a little taste of that, just to get you. A good cook will taste and go. That needs a tiny bit more amchur. I'm going to put another teaspoon in, because I can. So that's altogether 3 teaspoons of amchur to that amount of sauce. And now, without further ado, I've drained my chickpeas and they can go in. You're going to love this dish. Make sure you try it, because it is very, very famous Indian snack food. You can get this from street vendors, either with the chola, chana or black chana, and street food vendors sell it. It's a very popular, immensely popular dish in India, certainly in northern India. And there's a lovely Pakistani version of this with potato in it, and I've also had another version of this with chicken in it. I think they call that murg chole or chole murg or something like that. But it's a wonderful, wonderful dish. Chickpeas are such a wonderful, versatile pulse. Just love them. Right, that's got that in. I'm now going to take another flavour test and see if I need to adjust it. Oh, it's nice and spicy. Wow. Just the right amount of tang. So once you've added all the water and it's come up to that level, you need to cook it down now until it starts to really cling and group together the chickpeas. At this stage I'm going to add some sugar. You can add brown sugar is the best, dark sugar. Muscovado sugar is even better because it's got that lovely molasses taste. Or you can add a little bit of blackstrap molasses and some ordinary sugar, but I think you're probably just better off using Demerara brown or Muscovado sugar for it. I love the depth of flavour we get from Muscovado sugar, so I'm going to add a bit of that to it. I'm diabetic, so I don't want to add a lot. So I'm going to add about a teaspoon. And all that remains now is to keep stirring and cooking that down. You can cook this in an ordinary saucepan, but you'll find cooking it in a deep-sided fry pan like this, or a fricassee pan, or a wok perhaps, is a good way of getting it to quickly reduce. You want that sauce to thicken now and reduce. So we'll get back to you when that's thickened. While that's reducing, we could discuss some variations on this, and one possible variation I could put on it would be a nice Trini fusion idea by adding some Caribbean green seasoning, perhaps at this stage or slightly later stage, to give that a more Caribbean style twist and Southern Caribbean style twist. The way that they would finish this dish in Northern India now is to put a good slack handful of fresh chopped coriander into it, dhania, into it, and then they're often served as a street snack food on some kind of banana leaf or something like that, and people go away chomping on that with their fingers, and maybe a puri bread or something similar to what they call a barra in Trinidad. Interestingly, here's one for you boys and girls. Did you know that the Trinidad word for the bread they make their doubles with, their famous chickpea dish, is called barra, and the Welsh word for bread is bara? Very interesting, eh? But Welsh is an ancient Indo-European language, so don't be surprised where you find common words. The Welsh word for open, agor, is exactly the same in Greek and ancient Greek. Languages, eh? Don't we love them? Alright, you'll see that beginning to thicken up nicely now. Some of the starch in the chickpeas will be coming into solution with the liquid and thickening it up a bit. From here on in, we need to pay attention because it will burn easily if you don't stir it. When it comes to the amount of chili peppers you add to this dish, that is entirely up to you. You don't have to stick rigidly to my recipe here. If you like fewer chili powder, chilies, or no chilies at all, you know, then that's your bag. You know, if you can cook this without chili if you wish. It's rather interesting to note that chilies originally came from the New World, and they didn't enter, as far as we know, they didn't enter the cuisine of the Middle and Far East until the New World had been discovered, until they started trading with the New World. And before that, the spices used in the Old World were mostly pepper. So there you go, that's rather interesting to note. Not a lazy cook dish, this. Requires a lot of work, but when you taste it, and trust me, you need to taste this, when you taste this, it will light you up. Nice and thick, and as that cools, that will get even thicker. But you'll see now, let's take you close in. there you go. You'll start to see holes appear in the surface of the sauce. That's when it's really starting to concentrate and cling. Just keep them moving. This is the time at which it's desperately trying to burn on the bottom of your pan right now, so you've got to stop it. And the only way you're going to stop it is by keeping it moving. Right, I am now going to taste that and adjust for salt, because we're so close. We're so close to this being finished. So try that again. See how thick that has now become. Yeah. Wow, all the flavours have intensified, especially the chilli. That lovely, almost caramelly flavour of the anchoor, the mango, is great. It's tart and it's just got a lovely depth of flavour in it. If you can get anchoor, just use it, but if you can't, you'll get away with using any other souring agent, lemon or lime or something like that. It's hot, sweet and sour. That's the principal seasoning regime for this dish. So keeping that stirring, I'm now going to add a wee bit of salt. And how do I know to add salt? Because I tasted it, and any good cook tastes their food as they go. You can't. Right, I don't want too much salt in that. I just want to get that salted up. This is great. That's thickening up nicely. Now it's time to add the final flavouring. The final flavouring, which is coriander, and I'm literally just going to add a handful of fresh. That's actually frozen, but it's frozen fresh coriander as opposed to coriander powder, and I'm adding that in right now, and off goes the heat. And you can serve that with rice, you can serve that with your favourite bread. It's particularly nice with some kind of fried bread. It's particularly good. Any kind of fried bread, like a puri or an Indian style paratha, which is generally fried, or even a fried Western bread is particularly nice with it. I've tried every way with this, but I really do love it. It's up to you how you have it. I'm not going to have that with any bread at all. I'm just going to literally just pick that up and eat that with my fingers once it's cooled down. Chana masala, call it what you will, and enjoy.
If you have enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you would like to follow my channel, please subscribe and be sure to click the bell icon to receive notification of all my upcoming videos. Thanks for watching.